It's the Center Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Yes! Yes! Yes, this is my favorite part of the game.
Analyzing all of the league matchups week to week.
You can't win!
Get him a body bag! Finish him!
It is a bit above average.
I said this sucks, and basically so do you.
And discussing the boom, bust, and hidden gem players throughout the league.
We ain't found shit!
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here? I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Laces out.
Touchdown!
And here's your host,
Allow myself to introduce myself.
David Harbackin. Hello and welcome to the Center Fantasy Football Podcast for Week 3 of Season 7. I am your host, David Harbackin, joined, as always, by the Commissioner of the League and the very active coach of the Hackettstown Hagglers, Mr. Ghengis.
Yes, once again, it's been an exhausting week for the front office, but we're excited to kick things off. It's going to be an exciting week of analysis, and without any controversy this week for a change, let's get right to the action.
Yeah, I mean, so this was a very interesting week. This is one of those weeks where, going into it, there were so many, there were players and teams that we thought were just going to be dominant, and then they suffered the injury bug, and next thing you know, they're in trouble, and they've had to be very active on the waiver wire as well. Also a week where we saw a lot of the scores come back down to earth after week 1, where everybody was just flinging the balls around. Nobody had any defense. Nobody had any concept of anything. Huge high-scoring games this week. Very low-scoring games. So kind of an adjustment. We'll see how that plays out week 3. In terms of technical terms, we've tried to adjust Mr. Lusky's audio. Let's see how this works in response to criticisms from the coach of the Tillet Tray team on YouTube. So hopefully this works better.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the games. We'll start with, I don't know, why don't we start with the rematch of, or not even the rematch, the matchup between the previous 2 champions in this league, a game that we would think would pit those champions and be just, a high-scoring affair, but it wasn't meant to be. But it was a close game. It was a good game, and it was your game, the Hackettstown Hagglers against Dave's Secret Crush, with the Hagglers winning 84.12 to 78.42. Did I say, yeah, 1-2 to 4-2. Just barely pulling out this game. I mean, we were on the phone and we were talking about it during the game, and it didn't look like you were going to pull this one out. But I don't know. I guess the headline covers it all. It says, offensively challenged Hackettstown Hagglers knock off Dave's Secret Crush 84.12 to 78.42. I think that aptly describes it. All right, going into the numbers. Phillip Rivers ended up with 11.92 points against Detroit versus Cam Newton's 11.32 points against Tampa Bay. So quite a poor quarterback showing there on both sides. For the receivers, the vaunted Hagglers receivers, DeAndre Hopkins with 9 and Edelman with a scintillating 9.2. There you were outmatched by the receivers of Dave's Secret Crush. Thielen got 12.5 compared to 14.40 from Amari Cooper. Did it get better at running back? No, it didn't. 9.70 for Chris Carson and 9.9 for Josh Jacobs for Dave's Secret Crush. And for the Hagglers, 10.10 for Chris Thompson, doubling Sean McCoy's 5.30 points. Moving on to the tight ends. What a matchup here. 4.5 for Jared Cook It's a pretty poor score unless you compare it to Hawkinson's score, which was 1.7. But then we moved to where... Oh, wait, this is not even... Okay, so now we finally have moved into double digits down here. I mean, there's a couple double digits before this. But all right, Mike Evans gets 10.10 points for Dave's Secret Crush and 18.90 valuable points for Michael Thomas. Without Drew Brees, he still did all right. And then, the kicking game is really where you pull this one out. 12 points for Will Lutz compared to the 1 point for Matt Prater. And then, of course, looking at the defenses, which you have to in a matchup like this where every point matters. 6 for the Carolina defense for the Hagglers and 5 for the Minnesota defense for Dave's Secret Crush. Yeah, this was a sloppy, terrible, low-scoring game, but you just got to be happy that you got out of here with a win.
What's the boring-ass cliche? A win's a win. Well, I got to tell you, after the Thursday night matchup with Newton and Evans only getting 21 points combined, things were looking really good. And then, the Carolina defense got 6. Hey, it's going to be an easy week, right? Eugene's a low-scoring team to begin with, and the Hagglers with their vaunted wide receiving core, and Hawkinson, who had 25 points. Of course, we're going to steamroll these guys, right? This is why they play the game. All right? This was abysmal. At one point, we hadn't scored a point in over 2 hours of real time. It was atrocious. We trailed until literally 4 minutes left in the Saints-Rams game, where then the score was actually tied at 78.42 to 78.42. It was an actual tie until Michael Thomas caught like one more garbage catch to put us in the lead, or 1 or 2. We were actually rooting for LaShawn McCoy on his 3-yard runs up the middle in a cloud of dust for those valuable point whatevers to inch us at a snail's pace closer to Eugene. It was probably the most somehow morbidly exciting. It was weird. It was actually exciting to need .00001 points and get it at that clip. Inched our way closer to Eugene, but ultimately this disgusting slime-covered snail crossed the finish line before Eugene's disgusting slime-covered snail. So, I mean, the lowest scoring game in the league, probably a forgettable matchup. Probably there were only 10 teams playing this week because anybody would have smeared our teams had they played us. I mean, any one of these scores up and down the thing, even a 111, even a 97 looks hot and tempting against are horrific. So, needless to say, this prompted a gigantic swing of the pendulum for the Hagglers. They got busy this week. So we'll touch more on that later on. But, yes, this was a snoozer.
Yeah, as far as bench blunders, there were a couple of this. First of all, there was a coaching blunder in that Eugene played Mike Evans in the flex spot on the Thursday night game, which I'm sorry, is fantasy football coaching 101. You don't lock up your flex on a Thursday night. I mean, if you're going to play that guy, you play. I mean, if you wanted to play Mike Evans, I don't fault him for playing him. He should, but you put him in the one of the wide receiver spots, so you at least open it up so that you could put somebody else in there. And speaking of Mike Evans, frankly, Godwin has been better all along. Whether or not that'll continue, who knows? But Mike Evans should theoretically be the better player there. But yeah, not this week. So in terms of bench blunders, 26.10 points for Godwin, 14.30 points for Samuel on the bench, 13 for David Montgomery. Any one of these players outplayed the starters. And for the Hagglers, obviously the glaring 28.80 point bench blunder that Emmanuel Sanders, he's been on fire. Has he been fired? Is he even still on the team? Have you traded him away? I don't even know.
Oh yeah, the second you heat up in the Pop-Tart toaster oven, you're gone on our team.
Also Larry Fitzgerald with 15.40 points, which is better than two-thirds of the receivers that you actually played in this game.
Let's put it this way: the kicker with 12 points got the second highest point total on my team.
but it was enough. I mean, for Eugene, the second highest point total in the game was Mike Evans. Or no, sorry, I'm sorry, it was Thielen with 12.50 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this one was a snoozer, but somebody had to win, and somebody had. We all actually almost no. It was
I know. We were actually. We were looking up the rules of tie. Like, could you have a tie? Is there a tiebreaker in this? We now know this. If it ever comes to pass, a tie is just a tie. It's factored in, as a tie in the standings. So I'm sure that would wreak havoc on, being on the bubble for a playoff spot. But no, you managed to pull it out, barely. Mm-hmm. Although I will say, and I haven't seen it happen yet, but Eugene on Facebook happened to mention that in his championship run, he started out 0-2 also. And I gave some thought about why, and it seems to make sense to me. Because I don't think that he's that skilled as a coach. I don't think that he's that skilled as a drafter. But what I do think he is skilled at is shafting people. He finds like a wounded gazelle in the woods. He finds the gimpy, limping around player and finds exactly how he can rip them off at their weakest moment. Taking advantage of whatever their needs may be. I mean, like last year, hockey was desperate with Fournette out and everything he needed, all this other stuff. So he ends up, I don't even remember the deal, but he ends up getting, what do you call it? Christian McCaffrey off of him for Nick. What did he? I mean, he was also a wounded gazelle. What did he get off of him? He got.
Remember, he got the Allen brothers.
Yeah, he traded away the Allen brothers, who had one good week, and traded them away for Ezekiel Elliott, if I remember correctly. So right now, there might be some players and managers in this league that are ready to count Eugene out. This is when he's most dangerous. I haven't seen it happen yet, but this is when he's ready to work his magic. This is where championships are won. And I see some wounded ducks out there. Wounded ducks that should be ready to have their phone blow up. And if it hasn't happened, I don't know. Maybe he's got that second-year championship lull and lost his fight. But this is where I'm expecting something big to happen. I don't know what it is. I have no insider information. But just based on track record, this is where he's most dangerous, when he's cornered and when everybody else is too. Otherwise, he could just be the Miami Dolphins of this league this year. So, we'll see. But I'm not ready to count him out. I am not. Some of you might be. I mean, I know you look at the scores of 78.42, and that's, he was the only team to not get 100 the first week. So I know a lot of you are thinking, no, Eugene, he's a joke. He's done. No. No, this is when he's most dangerous.
Yes, so, I would agree.
So look out for Barnum and Bailey's Circus as they are ready to come to town and ready to come to your town and inbox at any moment now. All right. I think that thoroughly covers. Although on the reverse, the Hagglers actually have been active in trading, trying to make moves, and maybe Eugene themselves a championship this year. So we'll see. But huge ramifications out of this horrid performance, at least from the Haggler side. We'll see if it actually materializes on the other side and the person who is most skilled at that. And I'm sure as we go over these these teams and these hard performances, he'll be identifying some wounded ducks out there.
Yeah,
All right.
you can get the rod out because there's some shafting to do.
I know. He's already got the worm on the hook, ready to just put the fishing line out there. All right.
All right.
So that moves us on to two other teams that might be looking for a bite. I don't know. They look hungry. They're swimming around the pool right here. So we have Brian's team going against Tilla Trey team. This was another exciting game. This game came down to Monday night. This was a game. So Tilla Trey, I mean, they are the Cardiac Kids. I don't know if you're a Mets fan. I think he is a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan, and I just know the devastation of being a just perennially just being in just like close games and devastating losses and sometimes eking out close wins. Same happens for the Jets, which I know he is a Jets fan. I deal with that too, although nothing inexplicable. I mean, what do you call it? Nothing good is going to happen for us this year, though. With mono and whatever else. But yeah, the Jets fan goes into this game, needs some points from one of the Jets. You think, all right, he's got this. But it almost wasn't to be. But let's go through the scores. So the Yahoo headline is Tilla Trey team falls short of projections, finds way to knock off Brian's team 116.46 to 111.20. That's a very good summation. Yahoo's getting much better at their headline writing. So let's look at this game. Quarterback matchups were pretty damn close. Matt Ryan versus Philadelphia got 28.10 points, 28.66 for Tom Brady against Miami in a 43-0 blowout. For Brian's team, he got 13.40 points from Juju Smith-Schuster, and I think he went down with an injury in that game, and only 6.20 from Jordan Landry. We will reference this later on after we go through all the scores. 27.60 for Tilla Trey, for Julio Jones, and 16.10 for Antonio Brown, finally playing for the New England Patriots. In terms of the running game, David Johnson, after his good first week, he only ended up with 8.40 points and 12.7 for Fournette. For Brian's team, good production out of the running backs. Dalvin Cook with 28.10 points and Sony Michel with 12.50 points. In terms of tight ends, well, they didn't need to play any. First of all, O.J. Howard, who played, got 0 points. Not to be outdone by Njoku, who got 0 points, but he didn't play. So I don't know which one is worse there. Both. It didn't matter. You didn't. I mean, I guess he figured, yeah, what does it matter? Even if you play, you're going to get 0 points. So whatever.
Perhaps both teams had a gentleman's agreement that they weren't going to get any points for the tight ends.
I guess so. And then at the flex position, James White, one of the many running backs in New England and one of the many running backs from New England on Brian's team, gets 11.90 points to Clam Crowder's 8.0 points. We will discuss this in a moment. Zerline, the kicker for Tillett, gets 9, 3 for Crosby, 6 for the Buffalo defense for Tillett, and 8 for the Chargers defense for Brian's team. All right, so this game came down to the Monday night game. I believe Brian's team was hanging on to a slim lead. It was minuscule. And then as the game continued to wind down, and by the way, so in the game, the Millennials had Landry and technically Njoku in the game, so only Landry. Unless he cleared concussion protocol in the third quarter, there was no way he was getting on the play. So it's Landry versus Clam Crowder, who was going for Tillett. Now, Clam Crowder, mind you, in week 1, blew it up for 24.30 points. And that's without any touchdowns. That was on 14 receptions for 99 yards. So you expect, all right, he's got this in the bag. Especially with the Browns up in a huge lead. They're just going to run the ball at that point. But no, he was at like one. I think he was at zero. Was he at zero?
Zero. He was 0 catches, 1 target.
Right. Up until the fourth quarter, late into the fourth quarter. And we were just like, is this going to happen to Tillett again? Again on a Monday night where he's going to lose when he just needs 1.1 reception. And then there was like another, I think there was like another catch by Landry that just put it out a little bit. You know, it was just there because he was within 1 point. In fact, because on that one of the last drives, I don't know if it was technically the last drive, but very close to the last drive, Crowder got a catch. One catch for 1 yard. The minimum, basically the minimum amount that you could get. 1.1 points for a receiver, unless you go backwards. So, and at this point, he's still not there. And you just think, all right, here it goes. It's going to happen again. He still needs that one catch. But he managed to get it barely. I mean, he ends up getting 8 points. But, you know, and he ends up winning by about a little over 5. But it looked dicey there for a long time. He ended up with 4 receptions for 40 yards. And then after he gets that and he has the lead, the Browns, even though they should just be running out the clock, threw the ball. They threw the ball for a 30-yard reception. That would have put the Millennials up.
Yes.
By a fraction. But it was not to Landry. It wasn't to Odell, and it wasn't to Landry. It was to some other guy. And it was on Landry's side. So had it been to Landry, Tillett would have had another one of these devastating losses. But instead, he has a squeaker of a victory again. And yeah, I don't know why he always finds himself in these types of games, but he does. But, you know, good for him. He gets the win. In terms of bench blunders, I mean, Barber got 15.90 points, outperforming David Johnson. It's not really a blunder. You play David Johnson there. 17.20 for McLaren. That would have made this game, had he played him instead of Clam Crowder, that would have made this much different. It wouldn't have been as exciting as it was. For the Millennials, sitting Cooper Kupp, inexplicably getting 17.60 points, and 13.5 for Rashard Penny. Though, I mean, his running back performances were reasonable anyway without it. So, yeah, I don't know. Exciting game, though. Very exciting game this week.
Yeah, you got to feel for Kimmerall. I mean, he came out on top this time, unlike previous heartbreaks.
Yeah, I mean, and he's still got a good team. He has a very good team, but this is the kind of thing that could derail his season. I mean, because if you just look back at the history of Tillett, I mean, he gets the championship team to the championship game 3 seasons ago. Then the next season, he ends up not making it because of the Amari Cooper game. He ended up missing by like 1 game by 1 point or something else. In fact, he thought he was in because of the tiebreaking, but it turns out the tiebreaker wasn't head-to-head. It was points, and he ends up not getting in. Last year, he just barely gets in the last game of the season. He needed a win. He ends up making it in and barely getting away. And he goes on a run. And, you know, so when I say that I actually think he's one of the most exciting teams to watch in this league because, it's always a nail-biter. It's always, it's one of the more interesting stories. And he's he's proven himself to be very good the last 3 seasons. One of
the things I'd like to point out is, like, it's been a very short season thus far. We're only in week 2, but it's been a roller coaster ride of which team is the favorite to win it all. As in the draft, Yahoo predicted that the Whalers had the number 1 team in the league based on his excellent draft. And that kind of fell by the wayside remember when Tillett was red hot Like, oh my God, Tillis Frank's just going to steamroll everybody, and then he has a week 2 squeaker against the Millennials.
Yeah.
Remember Nick and Jamie's garbage barn he had to apologize for after week 1's massive point total? They became leapfrog Tillett to become the favorites, and of course, as you can see, they came back down to earth in week 2. And then the Wakanda Panthers were rolling along. They became the new hot, sexy pick. And then one thumb injury, and they're in the gutter.
I know. It's a long season. All right. So speaking of the Yahoo's best or highest projected pick. Sorry, Tillett, I did not actually write down your time. You might just have to listen to the game. You're early, so you'll just have to sit through one analysis of another game. But anyway, moving on to Yahoo's best fantasy choice. Another squeaker of a game right here, as the mighty Whalers come back to defeat the Lightning Rods 97.76 to 94.40. Yeah. So here's the thing. The Whalers are sitting, I believe, in second place, if I'm not mistaken. Yahoo predicted them to be the best team in this league based on draft. But you look at who he's played and how he's played. I mean, what did he get in week 1? Shall we look back all the way back into the record books? He ended up with 117.72 points on a week where teams were scoring insane amounts of points. This week, he finishes under 100, just barely under 100, with 97.76 points. So, it's like in the NFL where some teams, have played Miami, and you go, yeah, they have a good record, but are they that good? Or, because I mean, their points for is very low. In fact, I mean, obviously Eugene's are the lowest. I think I did the math. I think it's like 9 points less than Nick and Jamie scored in week 1 combined. For their 2 games. The Whalers have slightly more than that, but not much more. Now, a win's a win, and the record is great, and he's got to hang his hat on that for now. But going forward, he's gonna have to, I would think, generate some more points, or maybe not. Maybe Yahoo just knows something. Maybe they look at his schedule and just see that everybody's gonna suck the week that they play the Whalers. But right now, he's sitting pretty atop the league. Now let's go through the numbers on this. So Russell Wilson gets 30.20 points for the Lightning Rods, only 12.86 for Deshaun Watson. For the Whalers, 16.60 for Brandon Cooks and 8.10 for the Whalers from Allen Robinson. And Robert Woods gets a porous 6.20 points and 9.90 for the Lightning Rods. Moving on to the running backs, Ezekiel Elliott in his second game back gets 20 against the Redskins and only 2.5 from the pickup of Darren Sproles. Didn't really work out too well. The now former Hagler, or the now current Hagler, former Whaler, Todd Gurley gets 15.70 in his final game with the Whalers before being traded away. And Williams, which Williams is this? There's so many.
There's Damian Williams.
Yeah, this is Damian Williams. Okay. So Damian Williams, for Scott Williams, gets 8.60 points. Zach Ertz finally coming back. I mean, granted, there's no receivers there or anybody to throw to, so he gets 17.20 points at Atlanta for the Whalers. And Evan Ingram, also a Hagler. Just looking at this is basically Hagglers playing Hagglers. In this game, Evan Ingram gets 10.80 points versus Buffalo. And you move on to the flex. Joe Mixon with a 5.7, barely outdone by Kenny Stills, who gets 5.8. Tucker Justin Tucker for the Whalers gets 13 points as the kicker, and Butker only manages 4-5 for the Chicago defense. The Whalers did not play a defense. This is not a mistake. He only had, so here's the thing, he basically took a knee. He only had a 3-point, what is this, a 3.36 point lead against the Lightning Rods. He did not, I think he had the Cleveland defense, am I correct?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did not want to take the risk of losing 3 points and just barely losing it, so he sat the defense, taking a knee to secure the win. Now, granted, I don't think he needed to do that because the lowest amount of points I think a defense could score would be -3. I don't think it goes any lower than that. So had they just completely collapsed, he would have won by 0.36 points. But had they done anything, they would have gotten, a sack, anything. He would have had the win anyway. But I nonetheless understand the idea of taking a knee, because maybe there's some other, maybe like you just think in your mind, maybe I'm forgetting something, and I don't want to take this chance. I want to make sure that I walk away with a win, so I don't fault him at all for this decision. So yeah, and had he played the defense, I think he would have gotten 8 more points, so he would have gotten over 100. Still not a great score, but at least it gets into triple digits. As far as bench blunders, we have Tyler Lockett with 17.90 points, 11.7 for Devin Singletary, but he went down with a hammy. And like I said, 13 points for the Cleveland defense. He actually would have walked out with a 110 score, which would have been about what he got the week before, just slightly less. For the Lightning Rods, I mean, there's a lot of double digits over there. So he had Ebron with 11.5. 12.10 from Robbie Anderson and 10.6 from Philip Lindsay. Yeah, I don't know. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's fine. From the bench perspective, it's easy to second guess, but there's a lot of options Lightning Rod's could have sprinkled in there. Some interesting names over there on the Whalers right now. Names like Joe Mixon, Damian Williams, Allen Robinson. They don't exactly do it for me. Granted, he did make a deal. He brought in Michael Thomas to address one of those needs from, of course, the Hagglers. But overall, like you said, these hovering around 100-point games as the season goes on, and maybe he plays the right opponent each week, like you said. Maybe like that's how it's just going to fall. But at some point, you're going to need triple digits.
I mean, do you though? I mean, I am talking to the champion, the former champion who played defensive fantasy football. Maybe he has a recipe for defensive fantasy football this year.
It's really tough. From experience, it's really tough to win defensively. It's possible, as you can see, it was done, but it's really tough. I'm going to tell you right now. So if he wants to go that route, I mean, more power to him. But Whalers, it's going to be rough. It's going to be playing for point totals. A lot of banana peels have to be. You better purchase a lot of bushels of bananas, because the Zerline slipped on a banana peel. Remember, Alvin Kamara got a concussion that year. There's a lot of banana, but you're gonna need a lot of peels. So make sure they're ripe and ready to go. But yeah. So other than that, Wales is 2-0. Congratulations to him. He's got things rolling right now, but we'll see. You got at some point. Maybe you might want to get some points.
Yeah. So, but I mean, 3 really close games to start off. In week 2. I mean, that's almost unheard of. There's usually so many more blowouts. But yeah, very exciting week 2. In terms of other games, let's move to another exciting game. There's actually 4 that I can think of, which was the 1603ers players playing Hackettstown's finest. Despite top scorer Jackson, they're referring to Lamar Jackson, the 1603ers fall to the Hackettstown's finest, 146.86 to 133.28. As alluded to, Lamar Jackson with 34.88 points for the 1603ers to Aaron Rodgers' 18.36. Not something that many people would have necessarily predicted going to the season, except for the 1603ers, which is why they picked him up. But, yes. In terms of the running backs, in terms of the wide receivers, for the 1603ers, 22.20 points. For Boyd, 17.90 points. For Moore, for the finest, 14.20 points for Brown number 1, and 16.60 points for Brown number 2. And then we get to the running backs, which is what the 1603ers actually thought were going to be their strong suit. Turns out not to be so. Christian McCaffrey with only 7.30 points. He almost had a touchdown at the end of that Thursday night game. He didn't. He was cut off at the corner. I still don't understand why Cam didn't just sneak it up, at least for the first down. He would have probably even gotten the touchdown, but whatever. That 7.30 points is hugely disappointing and really the difference in this game. And then 13.50 points, which is also pretty poor for James Conner. Especially since it's buoyed by a touchdown. Now, granted, he did get a little bit injured in that game. They said he's okay, but, we'll see. For Hackettstown finest, Eckler, who's just been on fire, 23.30 points, and Le'Veon Bell making the difference on the Monday night with 20.90 points. In terms of the tight ends, Kelsey did outplay Waller, though Waller did have an impressive 12.30 performance. And 23.70 for Kelsey in the same game, playing against one another. And then for the kickers, exactly even. Fairbairn with 7 for Marr. And then the Houston defense, 10 points and 4 for Baltimore. Now, the score obviously is, what is that? That's a 13-point win. This is one of the higher scoring games in the league this week. The 1603ers still have the most points for in the entire league, yet they fall to 1-1. But this was a very close game, and especially considering the fact that going into the Monday night game, we didn't even know if Le'Veon Bell was going to play. He was listed as having a shoulder injury. And at that point, I think it was a 7.30. Ironically, it was about exactly what McCaffrey got. Le'Veon Bell needed to get in that last game. And he got that and more. But, I knew going into the Monday night game, I felt like it was probably going to be an L, but I still held out hope, but that was quickly dashed as the Jets have nobody else to go to except for Bell. Yeah, good win for Hackettstown Finest. They were on the other side of this in week 1, where they had a really high score, but they played a team that just had a little bit of a higher score. And then this week, they play a team that has a high score, reasonably high score for this week, but they end up beating them. So, good win, good early win. They don't want to drop to 0-2. And they don't, and they find themselves in the mix. And I think that they're one of the better teams at this point. For the 1603ers, obviously everything is pretty solid up and down, and except for, ironically, the running back performance. Now, granted, I think McCaffrey will bounce back. I don't really worry about that. Connor, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. I don't even know. At this point, I almost want him to just be knocked out. Just have Jalen Samuels go in there so I could put him on IR, maybe get somebody else. I mean, it's tough. Look, Breda with 14. Oh, I didn't even mention Breda. Sorry, 14.20 for Breda and 12.80 for Gallup in the flex spot for both these teams. But Breda had a good game. I mean, he's rushed for over 100 yards, 121 rushing yards, and 1 reception. So, look. I don't even think I'm going to play Connor this week. As we wait and see what happens in Pittsburgh. No real bench blunders there. I mean, Christian Kirk, 17.40 points. Had we played him instead of Breda in the flex, I mean, they still wouldn't have made a difference. Prescott gets basically the same point total as Jackson. And Adrian Peterson with 11.20 points, which was less than. I mean, it was more than McCaffrey, but you're not. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to second guess that because you're not going to not play McCaffrey in that game. For Hackettstown finest, Mike Williams got 11.30. Other than that, I mean, Frank Gore got 16.30 points, which still way less than any of his running backs. Maybe, it was a little bit more than his flex player, but you're not going to play Frank Gore there, so it's not really a blunder. But yeah, that's basically where this game goes. Both these teams are at 1-1, and both of these teams are contenders right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. This was one of the higher scoring games. Both of these teams are going to be a factor all season long. They can obviously put up the points.
Well, we think they were. We think they will be, but you never know based on week to week. The shiny new object.
Right. Yeah, oh, that's true.
But looking at what they have now, yes.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What kind of moves they make if they stay aggressive in free agency. You gotta be aggressive. You gotta make changes. You gotta constantly look to tweak here and there to be competitive. But right now, both these teams have a lot of firepower.
Yeah. And so we start off with 4 good games this week, and honestly, all of these games this week were good. I don't know. There's 2 left. Which one do you want to go to? We could either go to the return of the garbage barge.
Well, that was going to be the segue from the Lightning Rods game. That was the garbage delivery vehicle.
Right.
Delivering it to the actual barge this time, but we took a little detour. We went through Hackettstown refinery or the dumpster, and now we're going. Let's go right to the barge as they sailed into Zamunda.
Yes,
they sailed out of Hackettstown, a cruise liner, and sailed into Zamunda as the second lowest scoring team. I'm sorry, and an actual garbage barge.
Yes.
Now, let's see how do you go from cruise liner to barge? Let's go inside the numbers and find out.
Yes, the Zamunda Lions fall short of predictions, still managed to top Nick and Jamie, 108.42 to 83.44. I'll let you take over this game. Go through the numbers for us. Why don't you?
Well, here's what happens when you have a garbage barge. You have a lot of people drinking stuff, and they have a lot of food, and they just throw it on the floor, and it doesn't get put away properly. And it piles up, and it weighs the boat down. So it looks great and shiny, and it smells great in the beginning. But as it sails along, the pileup of filth creates an odor, which turns it into a garbage, and it attracts flies and disease.
And the norovirus or whatever it is.
Right, and dysentery and rats and all this other stuff. So let's take a look at how that happens. So Carson Wentz and Alshon Jeffrey had the Monday night game, and you figure they're going to get 2 for this is going to be a great combo meal. Wentz finished with 21.5, which was respectable. Against Carr. I mean, Nick is just a die-hard Raiders fan. He'll play Carr in Siberia. He just doesn't care. So 13.72, which is fine. It still beat Rivers and Cam Newton this week. So, just whatever, subpar performance. And then the barge sets sail. We have 0 points for Alshon Jeffrey, which, again, you can't predict injury, versus one of the many, many Williamses in this league. I think it's Tyrell getting 15.6, another die-hard Raiders fan. But he did get 2 first. It's, Raider to Raider action here. I mean, you gotta love your team. I mean,
the Raiders, the Raiders seem to raid the garbage barge.
Right, exactly. And then you move into T.Y. Hilton and that Indianapolis team, which is staying afloat themselves. And then Nick with another cryo chamber pick in D. Metcalf. Kind of paid off. And we say cryo chamber for those of you who don't get it. There are things called sleepers in this league. And then there are things called deep sleepers, people who have a long shot to do anything. And then there's just in the cryo chamber, who the hell is this guy? And Nick Zaveri busted out one of those guys in Metcalf. Now, he could be up and coming, so he's a youngster, so he could be putting up some points. But again, prior to this...
Yeah, he could be Sylvester Stallone from Demolition Man or Wesley Snipes.
Right, but prior to this, you'd say, D. Metcalf, who the hell is that? So cryo chamber actually outdoes T.Y. Hilton. Carry-on luggage shows up this time in Detroit. And here's, again, Nick and Jamie, one of the wrong... You think this is David Johnson? No, this is the garbage barge Johnson. This is the other Johnson. This is Duke Johnson with 3.10 points to parlay. It pairs very well with Jeffries' 0 points. And then you have Marlon Mack, who had 25 points in week 1 on the cruise liner, got himself intoxicated and passed out in his own filth for week 2 with 8.3 points. And Nick Chubb finally showed up with 19.8 points. Side note, also a Hagler. And we move on to the...
How many people did you pick up? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get to that next week. A little bit later in the show, actually. And then we've got Delaney Walker, who's just... Nick and Jamie love themselves some Delaney Walker. I think if we go back the last 5 years, they've had Delaney Walker every single time. A little bit high on the hog, I believe, in week 1 on the cruise ship with 22.5.0 points. But again, when you throw a bunch of Doritos and nachos on the floor, nobody cleans it up and the flies and rats come in. That's when you get 7.9 points. Versus Kittles and Bits, who just, I don't know, he's just $42 I think Nick paid for him. He just hasn't showed up this season at 8.4. And then Henry, who just, for some reason, this guy is just incredible with another 17 points. Thank God for the garbage board. Otherwise, you're looking at a sub-70 score with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, a victim of the thumb injury of Drew Brees. And then you have Gostkowski, who Nick and Jamie love themselves some Patriots again. Gostkowski with 7, Myers with 4. They did Defensive Digest even must have fallen into the pile of garbage on the floor. They must have lost their copy amongst the trash on the floor because last week's 18 points for the Jets turns into 4 points this week for the Jets again. So, and the Tennessee Titans get 8 points. So, I mean, the anatomy of a barge, too much excess. A captain who's asleep at the wheel and slams into an iceberg. Combined with the next part of this, a critical part of this segment, humongous bench blunders identified here. As the 25.7 points from Galladay or the 24.5 points from Ridley might have been more useful than the 0 from Alshon Jeffrey in a matchup where they lost by about 20 points.
I think 50 points might have made a difference.
Yes, of course. Or they could have just plugged in any one of the 0 point. AJ Green could have been a better play. Devontae Freeman, of course, 9.4 points wouldn't have made a difference. Baker May would have made on Nick's side. Not much up the way of blunders. Another cryo chamber move with Hardman might have piled on his win, but other than that, this is how you turn a cruise liner into a garbage barge. You sit players who score a shitload of points and play players who get 0. And, I mean, the players who are living high on the hog, I mean, they just make a big mess on the floor and make slobs of themselves. And you have a garbage barge.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the cleaning crew comes in there. I mean, look, you can clean this up. There are some points to be made there. We'll see how they're clearly a boom or bust team. When it sets sail, for the new voyage, they're the cruise ship. But once we'll see. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. Is it scheduled for maintenance? Is it scheduled for a new cast over there, or are they still setting sail? Is this one of those 3-day cruise, 7-day cruise, 14-day cruise, or one of those month-long cruises? I don't know. It's gonna make a difference.
Up there, they set sail for the St. Louis Harbor next week.
Yes, well, up the Mississippi they go. We'll see. I mean, that's gonna be a good matchup, maybe. All right, and then for Nick, I mean, 108 points, not fantastic, but Zamunda will take a win.
Yes, they will, and they did add some pieces in a trade with the Hadlers. Like, it seemed like everybody did something with the Hadlers this week, so we'll see how that happens.
All right, so I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's much left to say about this game, which moves us on to the last game of the week, a game that frankly looked like it was going to be very, very exciting. I mean, we were watching this and we were like, what is going on? Like, I mean, hockey was high on the hog. We thought Wakanda was just going to steamroll this league with his team, especially coming out of the Thursday night with Greg Olsen getting 70 points. I mean, it was a done deal.
Yes.
And then it changed. St. Louis Blues defy expectations, defeat Wakanda Panthers 167.22 to 126.22 in a rout, but this, that does not describe this game. Wakanda, so, okay. We could go through the numbers and whatever. Okay, Mahomes gets 39.62 points. That's what Mahomes does. Drew Brees obviously had the hand injury, went down mid-game. That's what changed the entire complexion of this entire game. Only gets 0.52 points. So, going through the numbers, Devontae Adams with 17.60 for Deshaun Jackson. Also goes down with an injury in the game. For St. Louis, Beckham 28.10 points. Are you really still whining about the $60 that you paid for this man? I mean, I said this a long time ago that the Blues were one of the better teams out of the draft, and he could have been even better. I mean, he had Mahomes and Beckham and $83, and then just, I don't know, but maybe ordered a Mai Tai on the Nick and Jamie cruise. But he makes the trade for Keenan Allen, who ends up getting 17.80 points, which was better than Deshaun Jackson's points. Aaron Jones also in a trade. No, Allen wasn't in the trade. Sorry, it was the other one. Whatever. Anyway, Mike Evans was in the trade, but he gets Aaron Jones in the trade, who gets 25 points and 9 from Carlos Hyde. For Wakanda, 22.50 for Barkley, and only 9.7 for Mark Ingram after the impressive first week. Granted, that was against Miami. As previously alluded to, Greg Olsen gets 17 and 25.20 points from Lamar Jackson's favorite tight end receiver, 25, Mike Andrews. I don't even know. Andrews. Randall Cobb gets 8.50 points in the flex. And Sammy Watkins, who we thought was going to take over the Hill role, ends up only getting 10.9. Still okay, but not exactly what we thought might occur out of that. As Hardman really got more. Nick in the cryo chamber pick knew that Hardman was going to be what he was. Robbie Gould gets 11 as the kicker for Wakanda and 8 for Matt Bryant for the Blues. And then in terms of the defense, Pittsburgh gets 6 and yes, this is correct, 37 points.
37 points. That's not a typo.
Yes. In fact, getting 2 pick sixes in a row. So, is there any bench players that we need to address? John Ross, 21.20 points. There's not even, I mean, he could have played him instead of Randall Cobb. Probably should have. But other than that, I mean, when you scored 167 and you're the highest scorer in the league, you can't really criticize any bench blunders here. And any of the bench, first of all, there isn't really any on hockey's team, and he played his best team. He just faced injury. So, to give you some context, we're watching the games, and, hockey looks like he's going to run away with this. Greg Olsen ends up getting 17 points, and we're just like, okay, hockey's going to roll. And then we're watching, and we're like, wait a minute, are the Blues actually keeping up with him? What? My son works? But you're like, okay. Wait a minute. His defense just scored 37 points. That is going to make the difference. I mean, it looked, while you're following this and you're following the projections, it's like, okay. That with the 37 points, Wakanda is now going to run away with this game. They're going to run away with this league, run away with this championship, and instead they took their ball and ran away. Breeze gets the thumb injury. Deshaun Jackson goes down, I think, in the first quarter, and the wheels come off, and that's it. I mean, his 126.22 points, that's a good score, especially on this week, for any team. But understand that that's with Breeze and Deshaun Jackson getting nothing. He could have. I mean, you just scratch your head and go, I wonder what this game would have been had it been had he had his full arsenal. I don't know. I mean, I still don't know that he necessarily wins this. I mean, 167, that's pretty damn impressive on a week where nobody got any points. So Wakanda might not have pulled this out, but we were almost we were in many ways in the other games we got really close games. We were deprived of a really close game because by the time Breeze's thumb injury came into play, it was like, oh no. And then Beckham just added some gravy or whatever. I just pissed.
Would you like some extra gravy on top of that, Lombardi?
Yeah, he just pissed in your dead skull. So yeah, I mean, but look, I said this for a long time. Lombardi and the St. Louis Blues are pretty damn good this year. I don't know why he doesn't recognize it. You would think your own coach would know that you actually have a good team. Maybe he's finally acknowledging it. Maybe he's realizing it. Because you do.
I mean, if he had Melvin Gordon, he'd be pushing 200.
And he still has him sitting on the bench, and, I mean, who knows if he's going to come back or not. I mean, rumors seem to be that he is, but we'll see. But meanwhile, maybe stop coming up with wild conspiracies and outlandish claims and whatever, and just play. And you might you're in first place, and you have a very good and promising team. So maybe focus on that.
With the garbage barge sailing into the St. Louis Bay next week.
Exactly. And as far as Wakanda, I hope that they have good health care there. Because there was a lot of ambulance chasing going on there. So, yes, I hope the Wakanda economy can support universal health care for all of the Panthers players. Because he's going to need it. All right.
Let's go up another list. Anybody that the Hagglers interacted with? No. Actually, one of the two rare teams that did not interact with the Hagglers this week. So we'll move on.
Yeah. And that brings us to the standings. So looking at the standings for our after the second week, we have the St. Louis Blues. The aforementioned St. Louis Blues atop the league at 2-0 with 295 points, followed by the Tillet Trey team at 2-0 and the Mighty Whalers, having played a Cleveland-like schedule of Giants and Jets, also known as I don't even remember who his two teams were at this point. Who did he play? I don't know. It doesn't even matter. In full disclosure, we actually already did this entire segment, but it didn't record the second half, so excuse us if we're a little punch drunk for this second part. So the Whalers are 2-0.
Right.
Followed by the 1603ers at the top of the 1-1 class, followed by the Wakanda Panthers, who we hope have good health care in their country there, followed by Hackasound's Finest with 282 points, just below the Wakanda Panthers in total. Then the Garbage Barge, Nick and Jamie, with 253 points. The Zamunda Lions with 229. The Hagglers in 9th with 225. The Lightning Rods with 221 at 10th, followed by the Millennials and Dave's Secret Crush with 177, which is less than the combined total, or the combined total is less than almost less than just Lombardi's performance this last week. Only a few points shy of that, or 10 points. He's within 10 points of the total. All right, so we are going to go over the next week's games, the predictions. Again, though for you it will be the first time. It feels like the first time. Actually, it feels like the 5th time, but whatever. For you guys, it is the first time. We are going to go over the teams. We'll go over the 2-0 teams playing the. What did we even do? We did something.
We'll wear this ridiculous outfit for you, Your Honor.
What'd you say? What? What did I say? I don't know.
Well, with sprinkling in bits and pieces of the last hilarious podcast that didn't get recorded to the drudgery of doing it all over again at 2 a.m. for you, the fans. Start off with this week's upcoming matches. So let's give you the short version. I'm exhausted.
As am I.
We're going to start off with the 2-0 team. So
right.
See if I can remember the funny things that I said before, or I didn't care at this point. The 2-0 Whalers. Let's give you sum it up. The 2-0 Whalers beat the stuffing out of the garbage truck. All right, that's not fair. Okay, we are professionals here. We deserve to do an accurate, in-depth review. Here we go again. Okay,
so we're gonna go with the Whalers first. All right, we'll start off with the Whalers versus the Wakanda Panthers. Whalers are favored 131 to 135. Deshaun Watson against Andy Dalton. Watson at the Chargers. Dalton at Buffalo. The $40 man. Then you got
45.
45.
Hey, 45. Don't shortchange him.
Don't shortchange him. Exactly. Pay that man his money. Okay. And then you got Devontae Adams and Sammy Watkins. Yayos. for Wakanda, going against Michael Thomas and Brandon Cooks for the Whalers. Then we have Saquon and Mark Ingram. Saquon playing at Tampa Bay and Mark Ingram at Kansas City playing against Damian Williams and Joe Mixon. Ooh, Joe Mixon. I remember saying something about that for the Whalers. Then you got a good tight end matchup. Greg Olsen at Arizona. He got 17 points last week. We'll see if he can repeat it. But you have Zach Ertz with Carson Wentz having nobody to throw to going against Detroit. Certainly going to give the edge to the Whalers there. Then Disley. Oh, Disley. Not going to do Disley poo squat in this game. Going against Tyler Lockett. So basically, Wakanda is hoping that Russell Wilson looks at his options, says, I could throw this to my wide receiver. My wide receiver one. Tyler Lockett, or I could throw it to this Will Disley over here. I think he's going to be throwing it over to Tyler Lockett. The kickers, Justin Tucker at Kansas City versus Gould versus Pittsburgh, and New England playing the Jets, having another Miami-like performance. Let's see if they can top their 37-point output versus the Mighty Whalers going against the Rams. The Whalers are going to win this. They have a New England-like schedule, or they have a New England-like schedule. Whoever the two teams are, I don't even remember the review. That was like 7 hours ago. Feels like they just scored barely enough to beat those two teams. But nonetheless, I think that they are going to face the wounded Panthers. And I think they pull out a win here. I mean, the only question mark is whether or not Saquon, and by the way, Saquon going against a tough Tampa Bay team. We saw what they did to McCaffrey last week. Mixon might be a problem. I do think that he should probably play Mostart. You must start Mostart instead of Mixon. But other than that, I'm picking the Whalers.
We're actually recording it, right? Because I'm not doing this a third time. I think we gave it, pun intended, 2 thumbs down.
Yes, we did.
Right?
Give it 2 thumbs. Yes, I do.
Thumbs down to Wakanda. That Drew Brees injury has put his team into a free fall, where the coach is now playing 2 tight end sets. He's going with the jumbo package with 2. Well, a tight end and a half. 1 actual tight end and 1. I don't know. Extremely dependent on touchdowns, Will Disley. Not to diss Will Disley, but when you score 2 touchdowns, and the numbers are still mediocre. You're beyond touchdown dependent. I think hockey needs somebody in that flex spot immediately.
And frankly, he could put Breeze in the IR spot. He still hasn't done that. Just go pick up anybody and put him in that flex spot.
Right, that IR spot. That frees up something for to go get something. And with the suspended Kareem Hunt, I mean, this team is looking like it's like Nick from before when Aaron Rodgers went down. It just created a domino effect, which the team never recovered from. I think Wakanda is in danger of that right now.
I expect a Eugene is just foaming at the mouth to go take over this team again.
Yes. Dr. Hockey, be careful. Protect Devontae Adams from the vulture that's swirling around right now.
Saquon as well.
Saquon. Oh, yeah. Saquon, there was already an attempt to nab him from a certain 1603ers. Packaging up a garbage bundle.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was rejected anyway, and it's not
hot steaming turds disguised as value.
Nonetheless, was not
right.
No, it wasn't. I disagree with that. It was a fair offer. He didn't reject it outright. No, it was. I'm sure. It doesn't matter. Even if I gave him a more than fair offer, an offer that you're going to be more than satisfied, it doesn't matter. This league hates everything that I do, and they scrutinize everything that I do and think it's a conspiracy. It doesn't matter. So I'm kind of glad it didn't go through, because I'd hate to hear the outcry of that decision, especially from the likes of the Eugenes of the league, basically being jealous. So I look forward to a deal for Saquon and Adams for I don't know who's even on Eugene's team for Ty Montgomery. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah. So Whalers with Michael Thomas definitely did some upgrading. Like I said, Mixon's got to go. Dr. Hockey, some things are in question, but Sammy Watkins, we're not sure if he's the next Tyreek Hill or if he's the hot dog vendor. But Adams is pretty solid most of the time. We'll see how Dalton fares out of Buffalo. I think this is a clear-cut. Whalers is 3-0, I hate to say, most likely. But Dr. Hockey is my, from the first version of this, the upset person of the week, upset candidate of the week as well. So take solace in that, Dr. Hockey. If you win, you're the upset of the week. If you lose, you're one of the 3 locks of the week.
Yeah, but it's not the lock of the week. But also, I think that Whalers is just, it's the I remember saying this actually, that the Yahoo projected him to be the number 1 team in the league, and maybe they just saw his schedule and said, yeah, he's going to beat these teams in this order, because he really doesn't even need. He can actually play some defensive fantasy football going forward. All right. Anything we have on take 2 of this one?
No, that's pretty much covered most of what we had from take 1.
All right, so let's move on to who else do we got?
We went over the 3-0 teams first. So Whalers, we went on to Tillotray next.
All right, Tillotray playing the Lightning Rods. Let's see what we got here. So the projection right now is 136.19 to 125.01 in favor of the Tillotray team. We have Tom Brady and Antonio Brown going against the New York Jets for the Tillotray team, and just sprinkle in some Julio Jones over there in Indianapolis going against Russell Wilson, Robert Woods, and Stephon Diggs. Wilson playing New Orleans. Woods playing at Cleveland, and Stephon Diggs playing versus Oakland. Then for the Lightning, so obviously clear-cut advantage in the quarterback, I think, playing against the Jets and Antonio Brown. So the receivers go in Tillett's favor. As far as the running backs go, Elliott versus Miami, that at least puts him in the game. He's also got Phillip Lindsay playing at Green Bay. For Tillett, he's got David Johnson hoping for a bounce-back game against Carolina versus Carolina, and then Fournette versus Tennessee. I will give the edge in the running backs to the Lightning Rods, but not as much of an edge as Tillett's wide receivers have. In terms of tight ends, the Lightning Rods has not put in a tight end at this point, though I'm assuming he's going to put in Ebron, Tillett has put in a tight end, but I don't think it matters because it's O.J. Howard, so let's just call it a wash there. For the Lightning Rods, the newly acquired Edelman playing versus the Jets. He's going to get some Tom Brady points there. Good for him. And for Tillett playing Peyton Barber, don't do that. We said that. I remember stressing that for a few minutes. We're just going to say it very quickly right now. Harrison Butker versus Baltimore for the Rods. Zerline at Cleveland for the Trey. Give him the edge there. And then the Chicago defense playing at Washington, going against the Buffalo defense versus Cincinnati. Give the edge to Chicago, I think, at least. Who did we say should play instead of Barber? McLaurin. Obviously McLaurin.
Yes.
Or Chark. You could put in Chark. But if you put in Chark, make sure you don't make the cardinal mistake of putting him in the flex. Put him in a wide receiver position so you don't lock that up. But yeah, McLaurin obviously is the choice.
Yes, you obviously don't want to jump the Chark and put him into the Thursday flex spot.
So anything else on take two of this game?
No, I believe take one included such highlight tidbits as this is the garbage truck. I'm sorry, picking up Wednesday night was pasta night, so there's spaghetti sauce all over the truck. So where's the glove?
We did go over Tillett's old menu, So just to confirm with everybody else, Monday was sub night, Tuesday was chicken night, right? Wednesday was yeah.
Yep. Wednesday was pasta, which was last night, which is tonight technically with the podcast going on. So we're right.
And Thursday was sub night part 2, just like this take 2. All right, so
exactly.
So we're both picking Tillett, I'm assuming, in this game.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So then in the other
3 is going to be the St. Louis Blues, as the garbage barge, the previous once the Royal Caribbean cruise liner has once again shown itself. The wallpaper has fallen off. Is it indeed a garbage barge?
Right. So the projection right now is 135.69 to 130.36 in favor of the St. Louis Blues. Patrick Mahomes, the one player that was drafted by the St. Louis Blues, going against Carson Wentz versus Detroit. As we all know, Mahomes going in the Baltimore game. You got to favor him there, though Carson Wentz should do okay. Odell Beckham, the infamous $60 Odell Beckham, who has been a fantastic player for him, playing versus the Rams. And then Keenan Allen, who has been really great this year, playing versus Houston. Going against Hilton and Galladay. So he's staying at the Hilton in Atlanta. And not at the Galladay Inn. So...
And that's we making a distinction from the first broadcast. This is Skynet drafting most of the rest of this team. So Lombardi does get, for the rest of the season going forward, when we refer to Coach Lombardi and the Blues, we're referring to Mahomes and Beckham. And then combined with the coaching of the computer, also known as Skynet, for the rest of the roster, except for Jones, who came in on a Shafter trade.
And Jones and Ross, who he picked up in free agency.
And Ross, who he did pick up, who he probably consulted with Skynet to see if it was okay.
Did he put him in the roster since the last one? I feel like he wasn't.
No, he was there. He
was there? Okay. Well, that's who we should have there. Did he pick up Tim Burton's Nightmare Before the Season? Wow, look at that. Yeah, Nick and Jamie, you should be playing Calvin Ridley instead of. So yeah, this was so you're making the Cardinal sin of playing Henry, locking up your flex really early. Put Henry into one of the running back positions, especially with Marlon Mack with a questionable next to him, because what are you going to do if you've locked up your flex and Mack can't go? So put Henry there. Maybe you could put Mack in the flex, but I still wouldn't even play him. But decide if you want Mack or if you want Freeman, and then put Calvin Ridley in the flex and actually play him in the flex. And go with a combination of Henry and Freeman. Doesn't matter, you're going to lose anyway. But still do that. Because Andrews is going to be ridiculous. Mahomes is going to be... The amount of points that the St. Louis Blues are going to generate just from the Kansas City game alone. And then Ross and Buffalo. I mean, no. St. Louis is winning this game.
Oh, by far, right.
Yeah. Okay.
So that covers the 3-0 teams.
Yes. So now we move on to the only matchup that pits a 1-1 team versus another 1-1 team, which is the Zamunda Lions versus Hackettstown's Finest. The projection currently sitting at 126.48 in favor of Hackettstown's Finest. So we have Aaron Rodgers, the man that destroyed Zamunda's last season, going versus Denver, and Garoppolo versus Pittsburgh. I actually give the edge to Garoppolo, I think, in this game.
Yeah.
Then we have one of the millions of Williamses, Terrell Williams, I guess, at Minnesota. And Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders, another haggler. I think I made a joke, and I stand by it, about the hagglers spreading their seed all around the league, just like Ghengis Khan. You can trace the lineage all the way back to the hagglers. So another haggler, former haggler, on the Zamunda Lions. And this is a really good one. Emmanuel Sanders, I think. So right now we have, for the Finest, we have Malcolm Brown playing at Kansas City, and D. Smith picked up playing versus Miami. I don't know.
I believe it's Marquise Brown, Hollywood.
No, it's Hollywood Brown. Whatever, I don't care. The other Brown, John Brown. There's so many Browns.
It's the Browns versus the Williams.
Although he has his own Williams. Mike Williams playing in the flex. So then you have carry-on luggage and Alvin Kamara. We'll see how Kamara does now that Bridgewater's in there. But then you have what I consider the best running back tandem that's currently in the league. We'll see if it lasts, because you still have Gordon hanging over Eckler, and then you have Le'Veon Bell ready to get his bell rung by any team in this league, because he's the only thing that the Jets have. So Bell going at New England, and Eckler versus Houston. I still think that they outplay carry-on luggage and Alvin Kamara, so I give the edge there. Then you have Kelsey versus Kittle. Kelsey has shown up this year. Kittle has not, particularly for what he's paid for him. Josh Gordon versus the Jets, so he might do all right. What did he do against Miami? This was not even something that we covered, but I think 3.9. Never mind. Okay. Going against Mike Williams versus Houston. Elliott, the kicker, one of my most hated players next to Nick Foles in this entire league, somebody who screwed me out of a championship, versus Marr versus Miami. And then the Green Bay defense versus Denver for Hackettstown's Finest, and the Tennessee defense at Jacksonville. Obviously Hackettstown Finest is going to win this game, I would think. The only question mark that I have, the only edge that I even give, is Emmanuel Sanders might be better than both of these receivers. We'll see if that's true or not. But right now, that's the only place that I see. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Next week's headline is Lions get mauled.
All right. So, that covers that game. All right. Now let's move on to the 1-1 games, or the 1-1 teams versus the 0-2 teams. Where do we start with that?
We went with the Hackettstown Hagglers against the Millennials. And to make a long story short, after hours and hours of commentary, now cut down to Take Two's tidied up version. Let's see. Rivers was potentially hard against Ryan. Hopkins and Fitzgerald against Shyster Smith. And Landry, I don't know if that was a who cares bracketing. Dalvin Cook, we did say was the lone bright spot to wrap up our previous review when we cared. With the lone bright spot. You have to see what Gurley and Chubb are going to do. Blah, blah, blah. Something about Michelle. Ingram coming over by way of the lightning rods. Njoku, something about a concussion, yada, yada. Chris Thompson, something about White being the same guy. Russ and Crosby, we didn't even care about. San Francisco, again. And once again, to wrap it up, probably going to be the Hagglers. I picked myself over the Millennials. And that was
and you were going to play Josh Allen probably,
right.
Who might actually match Matt Ryan. Schuster Smith, we still have to see what happens with the new quarterback. As it stands right now, not as much, but yes, the Hagglers moved to 2-1, and the Millennials moved to 0-3, based on our predictions. Okay, that leads us to the next game, which is
Or the last game, actually, that we're going to cover.
Wow, did we already make it to the last game?
We did. They gave you the short, abridged version.
Wow. Look at that. All right. So the 1603ers versus Dave's Secret Crush. 1603ers favored 132.15 to 128.56 over Dave's Secret Crush. Right now we have Dak Prescott going versus Miami, going for the 1603ers, playing against Brisket versus Atlanta. Yeah, I think there's an edge for Prescott right there. We had some kind of debate over whether or not I should start Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott. It's still an open question. I don't know. We'll see if it goes through or not, because there's the question of whether or not the Kansas City or Baltimore game will be a shootout, and Dak Prescott might not even play the fourth quarter because it's going to be such a blowout, or they might just be, running up the score, trying to outdo what Baltimore did to the same team. For the wide receivers, Tyler Boyd at Buffalo, DJ Moore at Arizona have an advantage over Thielen versus Oakland. Amari Cooper in that Miami game will probably get a good point score and probably will beat one of the receivers, but still the edge goes to the 1603ers. For the running backs, McCaffrey hopefully has a bounce-back game at Arizona, and Breda playing versus Pittsburgh since Connor is injured. We don't even know if he's going to play, whether or not Samuels plays or whatever, any of that crap. So going against Chris Carson and Jacobs, on paper you got to give the edge to the 1603ers, though it is possible, depending on which of these versions of these running backs show up, for them to have an okay game, but whatever. All right, Waller versus McDonald. Eugene shopping at McDonald's this week, trying to supersize his team, playing at San Francisco, going against the Brick Waller at Minnesota. The matchup is probably, who knows? Once again, this is another Pittsburgh game with the new Pittsburgh quarterback. Who knows if he's going to need a security blanket? He might do all right, but I still think that McDonald's does not have a good value meal. All right, then you got Christian Kirk versus Carolina, going against Mike Evans versus the Giants. His projection is high, 17.92. Christian Kirk, look, Arizona's been throwing the ball around, and they've been spreading the points around. Give a slight edge there. Prater, I pray to you, Prater. He missed an easy extra point, maybe even a field goal. I don't even remember last week. He had a terrible game last week, going against the new player that we picked up on the sly, Jay Sly from Carolina, who's been one of the better kickers in the league. And then Seattle defense versus New Orleans for the 1603ers, and the Minnesota defense versus Oakland for Dave's Secret Crush. I give the edge to the Minnesota defense versus Oakland. I never pick myself, so I'm going to pick Eugene, but you, on the other hand, have a difference of opinion.
Yes, I pick you over Eugene, of course, even though the Shafto rod's going to come out and he's going to start peddling all these players.
But yes,
he does have Godwin. For God's sakes, man, you might want to put Godwin in there instead of Evans. He's been more than reasonable thus far, and the rest of the lineup is looking like they're pretty forgettable. And so Godwin might be going in there, and
I believe you said something about Dave's Secret Crush getting crushed or something.
Oh yes, it's no secret he's going to get crushed.
That's exactly that's what it was. All right, great. So that's our predictions for the week. It was much longer and much more in depth, but you got the gist of it now. That moves us on to the lock of the week. Who was our lock of the week?
Our lock, we actually had 3 locks of the week. Originally, it was going to be St. Louis Blues blowing out Nick and Jamie, but I think that I'm going to change mine just for the hell of it, so I don't repeat myself from the previous version. I'm going with Hackettstown's Finest over Zamunda. Right, exactly.
Hackettstown's Finest versus Zamunda. I think that's a very good candidate. I gotta go with the Hagglers over the Millennials. They were terrible. They just look bad. All right. Your upset of the week, I think, is the same as mine, which is a potential upset in the brewing. If the New England defense can score another 37 points and he gets somebody to do Disley Poo Squat over there, I think that the Wakanda Panthers have an opportunity to beat the Whalers. He's outperformed him every week, even with the injuries. But Whalers did upgrade his team with Michael Thomas, I think, though he has to take out Mixon and put in the other guy. But yeah, so I think that there is an upset that could happen in Wakanda. But that's my upset of the week. I don't know which one was yours.
That was my original. Yes, I'm going to stick with it. If and it's a humongous if, they got to get out of the jumbo package. But if the Wakanda Panthers put anything other than 3 tight ends in the starting lineup, they might have a chance to upset the Whalers.
Exactly. All right, so we managed to get through this one. Week 2, take 2. We already have a title for this episode. Great. So, we were going to go with something else. I was going to go with, like, ambulance chasing because of all of that, or, I don't know, something about a garbage bar. I don't know.
I mean, hours ago it sounded clever, but whatever.
Yeah, right now we're just going to go with Week 2, take 2. So, with that, we are going to end this second version of the second half of the show. We wish everyone good luck, and we will see you with better production value next week. Until then, good night.
All right, good night again.